outside crew. There were about 20 people from NASA, so some were working outside, some inside. Every flight was 14 minutes, taking 4 hours. There was 1.5 hour pre-flight check, 15 minutes flight, 2 hours post-flight briefing. So everything had to go according to specific protocol, right? And with that, so I will just go. So this is my student and postdoc with whom we work. So, I mean, they were putting it into various conditions. For example, this is like a post-stall flight when they were trying to put the aircraft into stall. When aircraft goes into stall, it loses lift and it goes into rolling stability, it crashes. This is like my crash with the car accident. So, and if you hear two pilots' conversation, they are trying 3 different strategies. It's like you pull your car up an icy mountain and you can't pull you back up and then you try faster, slower. If you tune to pilots' conversation, when they are trying it, you will hear that they are trying 3 different strategies. So this is the first one. So they go to 18, and then they try 16 or 15, then they try faster. And the third time he says, let's try faster this time. Just pay attention, this is flight 25. In flight 23, they had first time tried our controller, and after flight 23, when the controller worked, so NASA was challenging everybody, professors, pilots. So when in flight 23 they tried us, and it's coming up towards the end, then they go to flight 25 and they force the pilots to repeat to see whether they have learned something from it or not. Like from my car accident, I learned that I never had a car accident again. But they couldn't learn basically. That was the proof that in flight 25, without our controller, they were crashing. Now they will go. So now they tried once, so they didn't crash. Now they go the second time to repeat it. And the point of repeating is that to make sure they get repeatable, testable results, because repeatability and testability is critical for certification. You can be stable 100 times, but if your transients are different, they are again handling it very well. If your transients are different, you just can't be certified. Okay, so certification comes on to repeatability, testability. And here we see that even the oscillations and the stall condition were very repeatable. This is when they pulled the aircraft to the departure edge of the flight envelope to test how much of variation it can handle. And as I said, while the controller was designed for 4-degree angle of attack, they go up to 28, the departure edge of the flight envelope, and that's where they kind of gather flight data regarding the crash conditions. So to make sure, and then when they go there, they do a lot of system identification tasks by injecting Schroeder sweeps, if you're familiar with aerospace language. So they excite the system to get the parameters identified, right? Here is where they hold beyond 12-degree angle of attack. This aircraft is installed up to from 750 to 53 up to 770. Holding the aircraft at the departure edge for this much, it wasn't ever done, and the flight data they collect helps them to kind of model the envelope for wider conditions, right? So we got a special issue article in IEEE's Control Systems magazine on safety critical control. So the whole article magazine was issued to us. So we basically demonstrated that with a single flight condition designed controller, we could go to the departure edge of the flight envelope, and this was the only controller cleared by the pilots for postal flight conditions. And it helped the system ID group to do modeling last idea aerodynamics at Seoul. And this got us into Flight International, some media attention, so outside the box, so they were referring to this mobile operation station overall, like an outside, thinking outside the box concept, and here was a nice commentary by the journalist regarding our views and our controller. So NASA is pushing this further, so after flying the 5.5%, we're flying the 15% now. We have the GL-10, which is a hybrid vehicle. You can think of it as a hybrid drone. So it has vertical takeoff and landing capabilities. At the same time, the wings rotate to forward flight, and it gives you flight endurance longer. If the drones are limited by 40 minutes battery time, this way we can fly longer and still have the agility from drones combined with the long endurance flight of fixed-wing UAVs. We have full-scale simulator, and eventually last year we got an opportunity to fly the Learjet at Edwards Air Force Base here not far in Lancaster. So this is already a real one. It is not a subscale. It gives us a lot more challenging flight conditions. If the subscale airplane was flying at 80 knot equivalent airspeed condition, here we were at 250 equivalent air knot speed condition, and two flight conditions were given for us to test. We had 20 hours of flight, so here is what you see inside the airplane. We had 5 people. The flight test engineer was recording here the data, and this is one of the typical conditions. That's called 800 air. So this is the famous. So right, this is 800 Sabre dance is a well-known accident. So it happens at low altitude, low speed conditions when the plane during the takeoff loses the speed and then it crashes. It cannot basically generate lift. So we were very happy, lucky, fortunate. I don't know which word to use. That Edwards Air Force Base approved 7 failure configurations, including this one, to put our controller at test. And I mean, these airplanes are kind of like the driving school cars that have a way of safety controller to override in case something goes wrong. But there is still a risk, right? So we were lucky, so they let us test. And here is one of the movies. It's recorded from inside the airplane. I mean, getting 2 airplanes chase each other, first of all, would be too expensive. That's how the beautiful movies you see online. But from even inside the airplane, you hear 2 pilots' conversation. When so let me just interrupt for a minute, explain what's happening. So when you're flying in the airplane and there is no fasten seatbelt sign, that's called level 1 flying qualities 1, right? So when it starts a little bit shaking, it's called already level 2, level 3, so it's degradation. So the higher the number, the poorer are the flying qualities with fasten seatbelt signs and so on. So when they are flying, pilots are giving rankings always to the performance of the controller, right? They say Cooper Harper rating 1, 2, 3, 4, and there is an engineer who sits there and records all their comments. So basically what happens here, the pilot has to give ranking because L1 is turned off, the airplane is put into accident. So the pilot has to give ranking so that when they turn on the L1, so he can change his ranking and we see how much we improve. So here it's so oscillatory that he's not able to read even the scoring sheet to give the ranking. He asks, so turn on L1 so that we get the ranking down. So just, it's scripted, you can work. And the oscillations, you see I hit from here, the light shaking, it's the level of oscillations for you as an indicator here. Otherwise there's no way to show it. So these are students who are doing their master thesis basically. And one of my former students is a test pilot school instructor who gives me this opportunity for the new pilots to get trained on our methods to get their pilot license basically. It's all about connections, right, from you know where. So then another one is the landing. So we go even for landing with L1 on, which is also another challenging. If you ask the pilots flying airplanes, it's all about takeoff and landing. And landing is being more challenging. And now you will hear them saying uneventful. They count already altitude, they are coming down. Very uneventful, so that was the point. So, and we got into Aviation Week, basically. Aviation Week came to Edwards Air Force Base and we got interviewed there, so basically we're highlighting, right? So here is our IntelliNair drone. So we'll show you what our company does. You can see. So this is like kind of taking the base autopilot from a third-party company and putting our controller on it to show how much more uncertainty it can handle. So if you look here, so it's a missing propeller, no GPS. So the propeller is missing, and we are flying with the missing propeller, and we are able to do position hold and stabilize the aircraft despite the fact that one propeller is missing. And when it, comes down, then they do. So this is going back to the base autopilot of this third-party company. I won't give the company's name, and so let it kind of be ethical to others. So and now you'll see that without our controller, it basically cannot take off, right? So flight control was not invented by us. We just make it safer and better, right? And the next one will have this off-balance bottle hanging. This bottle is filled with water. I think it's half filled with water. And they will take off and stabilize. Right?
Wow.
Right. So, wow. Right. It's a wow.
I know what that is. Sounds good.
So, and if we take off the bottle, it will go on to crash, right? And not the bottle. If we kind of put off the other controller, it's base product, right? It had a base product here. So it's very stable landing with that bottle hanging. And now back to its base PID controller that they usually all these off-the-shelf autopilots come with. And that bottle will throw it off, not letting it fly, right? So what else have we done with drones? This is just to show an autopilot development, right? So I mean, here are lots of other kind of movies that I won't go, like surveillance movies. For example, we can show this one. You can see how it takes this one may not be that interesting, and right. So it will go into free falls, right? It goes up and down, free falls without ground effects, without destabilization. You will see now how it goes. Without destabilization, right? It comes, hits the ground, but without losing it, and then it goes into position hold, and also here it's a position hold kind of picture. I mean, these movies are too many, and I can show you like examining a light in the street. This is flying quite high wings. It gets very close to the very close examination of it, right? Basically. I want to jump over this movie and go to more substance, right? This is developing pilot interfaces for like situation awareness was raised here.